So this photo from Ant-Man and the Wasp might not look like much at first glance. And that was my reaction as well. I was like, oh man, it's a new image, but what the heck am I going to say about it, right? Well, I thought about it, and I thought about it. And I got to tell you, this photo got real interesting, both from what's in the photo and what it says about publicity strategy. All right, so the first thing about publicity strategy is that this is part of a group of photos and logos that Disney released today in a press packet announcing their official slate of movies for 2018. They do this every year. And every year they kind of miss the opportunity to give the press something new to talk about, right? Most of the photos, 90% of the photos we'd seen before, not really much you can say about a logo, and they had two new photos this year, this one and some concept art from Wreck-It Ralph 2, which I broke down in another video. There's a link down below in the video description if you want to check that out. But with this photo, they didn't reveal any new information. There's really nothing to take away from the photo. So it left me, as a member of the press, in a position to kind of come up with something myself. And I came up with something, but I don't think that Disney's going to like it. So they kind of should have pointed me in a direction. So, my first takeaways, I was like, well, what's that logo? And I was like, oh, that's the PIM particles. It's the PIM company logo. So I guess the company's rebounded after the shenanigans from the first movie. Yay! And then I was like, eventually, as you can see, I was really working here. So and then I was like, Evangeline Lilly's eye makeup looks real nice. It reminds me of old school close-ups of female characters in comic books and also the work of Roy Lichtenstein. So that's nice. That's always nice. It's got that going for it. And then I looked over at Paul Rudd and I was like, his eyes look a little tired in comparison. They don't quite pop. And he was like, he should really speak to his makeup team about that and be like, the comparison doesn't help me. Although to his credit, Paul Rudd's very expressive with his voice. So I think when this is, this is obviously it's going to become a moving image when it's a movie, so he'll be fine. So anyway, I was like, that's not enough. What else am I going to talk about? And I was like, well, this is our first look at them as a couple, right? And then I looked at their costumes and I was like, wow. They match. They're literally a matching set. And then I thought about that even more. And I thought to myself, well, now that we've seen them together, well, we always have to see them together. And that was not only a really interesting thought to me, but one that I felt could potentially become very regrettable to both Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly. Because from now on, going forward, after this movie comes out, first is going to be Avengers Infinity War, then this movie will hit after that, and then of course in Avengers 4, the Wasp is in the cast. Will they always have to appear in movies together? And Paul Rudd, of course, has enjoyed some alone time already. He's been single, right? And so I think he'll feel it he'll really feel it in particular, that now suddenly everyone doesn't want to see just Paul Rudd. They want to see Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly. And I think that that's really interesting because I think it's a commentary on couples that not only, both friends and, both platonic and romantic, by the way, because this can happen in both cases, but couples that play together and work together, that really have no time apart. And their identities become intertwined. They don't really become known as separate entities. And that's really, I've seen it in real life. I'm sure you have too. And that becomes really taxing on them. And so in the movie, I'd love to see that addressed, right, eventually. Maybe not in the first film, but, if it's successful enough and they make another one, or even in an Avengers movie, being like, well, I'm my own person, right, even though we have the same suit, we have the same power set, et cetera, et cetera. Because we've just been focusing on the pluses of being a couple, and isn't this great? And we're finally gonna have a female Avenger front and center with her name in the title, right? Isn't that nice, etc. But then here's the downside of it, and so I would love to see that explored in the film. And then also, I'd be curious to see how Marvel tries to make that not too big of a problem for these two actors, so they don't feel like I would hate for them to become sick of the sight of the other person, right? They have to do all their press junkets together. Do they have to do all their interviews together? Do they have to be in every movie together? Will they just become inseparable? And while at first that sounds great, it could eventually become really bad for both of them. And I'm curious, how do you feel about it? Or do you want to only see them together as a set? I mean, they've really been presented as a set. Marvel's making no effort to show them as two different superheroes. So it's not like they're a power couple like Bruce and Natasha, right? Or even, Vision and Scarlet Witch. They're still very different characters. These two, perhaps they shouldn't have made their costumes identical. And now that I see them together, I'm nervous for both the characters and, again, the actors. So I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts on this. All right, write your thoughts down below, and you can check out some more videos right now.